It has deepened my life in a way that is so exponential. And I really want to anchor into that because we're in a period of a few years where there is a lot of change. I sit here in December looking back on where I was 365 days ago. I feel radically different. That happened because I was challenged. I'm so grateful for everything that this year brought. I'm so excited to see what is in store for 2026. Hey, I'm Sophia. Welcome to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about the biggest lessons that I learned in 2025. It is the last few days of 2025, and this time of year, I always find myself pretty introspective, thinking about everything that changed, everything that happened, and 2025 specifically was a year that was so different than I thought it would be going in. I had come off of 2024 that was a year where I felt like a lot of things kind of fell into place for me. I had had a spiritual awakening that started deep in the heart of COVID, and it felt like it really took 3 years to kind of unravel a lot of threads from childhood, a lot of experiences I had had to really kind of like build the spiritual foundations of my life, to understand myself deeper. And 2024 was the year where it felt like everything kind of fell into place, and I was seeing what it was really like on the other side of that healing journey. So I ended the year expecting 2025 to really compound on all of the work that was done in 2024. I felt a lot of momentum kind of in my life in the lanes of career and love, and I really thought that it was going to be kind of like a year of sunshine and rainbows. The funny thing about the way that 2025 started for me is that I was dog sitting on New Year's Eve this past year. I have a friend who consistently dog sits for somebody that travels a lot for work. She was out of town for New Year's and asked me if I would be interested in dog sitting. So I said yes, and I ended up coming home kind of early on New Year's Eve because I really wanted to start the year off on the right foot. And I let the dog out. I went to bed probably before midnight, and I woke up early the next morning, and the dog had gotten anxious from the fireworks and had had diarrhea all over my living room rug. And I woke up on the first day of the year thinking, started on the bottom, only way to go is up. I've been reflecting a lot now that we're 12 months past the beginning of this year on what the symbolism of this experience actually was for me, and I view it pretty differently now. What I actually think that the universe was kind of hinting at with the way that 2025 started for me was that it was going to be a year of really digging in the shit that I did not want to clean. And this isn't something I found very comfortable. But as I talked about in a video recently, 2025 was the year of the snake. It was the year of shedding, of release, of letting go, transformation. And growth cannot come unless we look at the places that are the blind spots we have in life. And so 2025 was a year of a lot of that. And yet I sit here in December of this year looking back on where I was 365 days ago, and I feel radically different. I feel like the way that I operate, the values that I hold, the regulation that I'm able to access on a daily basis, it's grown so much this past year, and that happened because I was challenged. So I want to talk about some of the biggest lessons that I feel like I learned in 2025 as we enter this new chapter, this year of the horse, this one number in numerology, and into the next year of 2026. So let's get into it. The first thing that I learned in 2025 is that honesty is the basis of all connection. I have always struggled with small talk. I have felt like it is something that just eats away at me from the inside out. I want to go deep with people. I want to get real with people. And I've found myself in so many social interactions over the past few years in which I found it really inauthentic. And over the past couple years, I've been working a lot on authenticity, on showing up as I truly am, on being really honest. I kind of developed this technique when I was really young of masking, of camouflaging, and I got good at reading people. And so I could kind of read people in social situations and see what they're interested in and play into their likes and dislikes, and really just fit myself kind of into this cookie cutter of what I felt like the person was wanting. And what consistently happened with this is that I would come out of interactions feeling like the person didn't know me, like I didn't express myself, and like we didn't go deep. And whose fault was that but my own? Over this past year, I've really been working on being a lot more honest with people, going into interactions and people asking me, how are you? And being honest about where I'm at, honest about what I may be struggling with, honest about the things I'm excited about in life. Doing it from a lens of not like dumping on people, I think that's super important. But it's been really interesting for me, the more that I have done this, to see how quickly people mirror it. And I think a lot of times people are just looking for permission. And if you're open enough and honest enough and kind of brave enough to just show up authentically as who you are, people feel it and it really radiates outward. And my favorite people that I always meet are the ones that are so authentically themselves. The people that might be really quirky or kind of out there, or super loud or whatever it is, but you know that they are showing up 100% as who they are. And how I feel consistently in those interactions is that I have full permission to be myself. So showing up honestly in conversations, being more of myself, has been a huge breakthrough that I've had this year. And I'll say that like I'm getting more feedback as of recently that I see more embodied, that I see more myself, that I see more confident. And I think that it's because of this, because I'm just being honest about where I'm at. All right, number 2. It is rarely black or white. I had this subconscious belief for a long time that things were really black and white. That if I had a fight with somebody, it'd ruin the relationship. That if I wasn't gonna date somebody, they can't even be in my life. That if I have a hard conversation, all of a sudden the dynamic is different. It was a really big limiting thing that stood in my way for so long. And the universe this past year gave me so many opportunities to work through this. I kept being faced again and again with these really kind of hard, uncomfortable conversations where I would have to speak my truth in a relationship or in work or in a family dynamic. And leading up to nearly all of these interactions, I was really nervous. I didn't feel like it was going to go well. I had this kind of preconceived self-sabotage, assuming that it was just going to fall apart after and that things would disappear. And what happened again and again and again is that it led to more connection, more alignment, more depth, and me feeling more seen than I have ever felt. I can't believe it took me 26 years to really learn this lesson, but I think about how many people avoid conflict, we avoid speaking our truth, we avoid confrontation, and it can feel like the short-term, easier thing to do so, and yet long-term, it is actually sacrificing a lot in the relationship. And miscommunications result in so much misalignment compared to just speaking where you're authentically at, even if it's a little uncomfortable. It's so empowering to know that the people that love you aren't going anywhere just because you speak your truth, that they want to hear you out and have the hard conversations, and that, you know, sometimes people won't be able to meet you where you're at with it, but even in those cases, it's so worth it because that's how you avoid getting to places at the end of your life where you question, what if? One of my best friends was an ER nurse for 20 years, and she said that in her career, when people would be at the end of their lives, the things that she would hear consistently are people saying, why didn't I just tell them? Why didn't I tell the person that I loved them? Why didn't I go follow my dream? The regrets were always about the self-imposed limits. And the way to avoid that is to really practice in small ways being yourself in the moment. And I think that leads to the bigger expressions of it. Okay, number 3, love doesn't equate to readiness. Oh, this is a lesson I feel like I have learned multiple times, but it was really hammered in for me this past year. And I'll just say it simply, there can be a situation in which you care deeply about somebody, there can be a situation in which you really get along and there's a lot of alignment in many areas of life, but if they aren't ready or looking for the same things that you are, there's no way to make them be. And instead of trying to convince yourself that things might change down the line, to project the potential to assume that things could evolve in the direction that you would like them to, you have to be honest about where things are at. There can be a lot of love, there can be a lot of care, there can be a lot of alignment, but if there is not a desire to build a life with somebody, if there isn't the willingness to try and to grow and to create a similar life to the life that you are looking for, the rest can't override it. This is probably the biggest, hardest lesson that I learned this past year. All right, number 4, if you are looking for a big life, expect to be challenged. Back to the message of we don't grow unless there's friction in our lives. If you are looking for a big life, if you want to create a lot of alignment and joy and live in a way that is going to evolve you consistently and get you to this place you have dreamed of going, expect to be challenged. This past year was the biggest year that I think I have been challenged in a long time. And as I mentioned at the beginning, now 12 months later, it has created so much alignment in my life, so much honesty with myself about where I'm at, but it only came from the really tough moments. I felt like this summer I went through a total dark night of the soul where in the midst of this beautiful life and all the blessings and all the joy that I have, I was really deeply challenged. And it makes me think of the quote, I asked God for patience and he sent me a line, because it's how we learn the lessons. We signed up on this human plane to learn through experience. It's like we're here in Earth School. And if you have big dreams and you have big things that you're calling in, and you're in a phase of being challenged in life, I would encourage you to look at it through this lens of, wow, a lot must be coming from me. A lot must be on the other side of this mountain that I am facing. Because it's always been true in my own life. The dots connect, but they only really do it in the rearview mirror. And the journey of getting there can be a lot smoother if we surrender to the process of not knowing. All right, number 5, the opposite is the medicine. Now, I didn't come up with this. I got this from Lacey Phillips, who's the creator of To Me Magnetic. It has been so unbelievably true for me this past year. What the opposite is the medicine means is that if you're being challenged by a situation in your life, the medicine is to show up in the way that you typically wouldn't. One example of this could be if you really struggle to kind of let people in life. If you have a friend that's really proactive and loving and is really leaning in, and your instinct is to kind of keep them at arm's length and push them away, the opposite is the medicine in this situation would be to really accept the love they're giving, to spend time with them, to also lean in, to accept the fact that it doesn't feel comfortable or familiar because of the blocks that we have in place, and yet that is exactly what you do to overcome the blocks that are standing in the way of connection. All right, number 6, nervous system regulation and a balanced dopamine system is the foundation of everything. There's so much I could say on this subject, but to keep it kind of simple, nervous system regulation, in my opinion, is your ability to show up with presence in your life. It impacts the lens that we view the world through, it impacts our relationships, it impacts the energy we bring into every situation, Our nervous system is running the show at all times. And the more that you can really invest energy and resources into regulating your nervous system, it ripples out on a mental health level, on a physical health level, on a relational level. It is the most powerful unlock, in my opinion, to getting the life that you desire. In tandem with this, dopamine is the chemical of pursuit, and specifically pursuing pleasure. It is the thing that really motivates us to get up and get moving. In caveman times, it is the reason that we would survive, that we would hunt and gather and seek out food. Without dopamine, we would never be where we are as a species. It is so necessary for success, and it impacts just about everything. But the thing about dopamine is that we live in a world now where dopamine is readily available in everything. It's in fast food, it's in social media, it's in alcohol, it's in drugs. And whenever there is something that gives us pleasure without investing energy in getting there, they actually impact our ability for pleasure in a deeper way than we understand. Dopamine exists on an axis, so what goes up must come down. And if you're getting pleasure without exerting some pursuit, it swings upward in a high balance, and it quickly swings below baseline. This is why people will have a cigarette and suddenly want another. It's why they'll have a drink and want another. It's why you'll be scrolling on TikTok and suddenly it's been hours. It's because the craving is actually your dopamine dipping below baseline. When we seek out these really high highs consistently, it actually messes with our ability to find pleasure in simpler things. All of a sudden, if we're spending our time on these really high highs, stuff like reading a book, creating art, connecting with people, it doesn't bring us the joy that is meant to and supposed to, and it leads to these sort of addictive brains that are always seeking this high, high, high. As a result of this, balancing your dopamine system is one of the most empowering things that you can do in 2026 when we have everything at our disposal. When we have social media, we have ChatGPT, we have instant streaming, we have everything that we could want, meaning that if you can master this element of your life, it gives you so much power. Anna Lembke's research on dopamine is really fascinating. You kind of want to dig into the deeper understanding of it. But the things that I would recommend with dopamine, don't engage in activities in excess that don't require some pursuit. Seek out things in your day that create pain, like exercise, like hard work, like these things that actually dip below the axis to help restore balance. Dopamine is something that I have struggled with most of my life. I can get into this in kind of like a deeper video, but I was put on ADHD medication when I was 6 years old, and ADHD medication increases dopamine in an extreme amount. And because of this, I felt like even after I went off the medication, I would seek these really high highs. I was always looking for stimulation and friction, and I just had a hard time finding it. This past year, I worked more than I have ever worked in my life on regulating the dopamine in my brain, and it is wild how it's translated to every area of my life. Suddenly, I can be seeing my niece and nephew and just playing with them with no other stimulation for hours. I find myself not pulling for my phone in the morning and at night, going hours without even knowing where it is. I find connection with my friends and exercise and walks in nature to be way more satiating than it once was. It's a huge gift to find joy in the simplicity of life, and it's something that we used to all feel because of the way that the world was structured. But now that we're structured in this way where it can be so easy to fall out of balance with the system, you see these really high rates of anxiety and depression and different mental health challenges, and I think it's no coincidence. So learn about your dopamine system, do what you can to really positively influence it, and watch it translate to every other area of your life. Okay, next up, excess potential is the biggest blocker of miracles. I have been reading a book that my mom recommended to me called Reality Transurfing. It's by this Russian quantum physicist. It's really thick, it's pretty dense. I'm totally enthralled. One of the things that they talk about in Reality Transurfing is this idea of excess potential. They believe that the universe is always trying to stay within balance, and the energy of each person can influence the balance in their life in different ways. If you think about a pendulum that is always trying to slow to balance in the middle, it means that whatever energy is created on one side of the spectrum has to be rebalanced by the universe on the other end of the spectrum. Enter the concept of excess potential. Reality Transurfing believes that when there is excess energy created around a situation, the universe must then create excess energy in order to balance it. One of the easiest examples for me to think about with this is when I'm really excited about something that's coming up, about an event that there is, about a date that I'm going on. It could be anything, but consistently when I'm really, really excited about something, it usually doesn't live up to my expectations. That isn't random. It is my excitement and the pressure I'm putting on the situation creating excess potential that the universe then has to neutralize. It's such a simple concept, and yet since I've learned this, I've been thinking about situations in my life in the way that I really project excess potential on them. And I've been working to just neutralize how I feel about things, to have gratitude for my life, for situations, but to really anchor back into being present. And over the past couple months, I am finding so much joy and alignment within the circumstances of my life. Another way to look at this is when you create excess potential around something, you are giving power to a situation over your happiness. And in a way, you're putting that situation's ability to give you happiness above your own. And within each of us is the full capacity to make ourselves happy. We don't need any external circumstances to do so. And when we give too much power to them, things fall out of balance. It's a powerful practice practice for reclaiming energy, and I really want to talk about this book more in general because it's been really groundbreaking for me. Okay, and last but not least, it is a gift to live a spiritual life. To be asking the bigger questions, to be engaging in big discussions. It is such a gift to do so. Sometimes I just want to pause and think about the place that we are at, because there were so many times in history when people did not get to do this, when they were focused on survival generation after generation after generation. And there is a lot of upheaval in the world right now. There is a lot of tumultuous things happening, but no matter what happens, it is a gift to live a spiritual life. Before 2020, I was so lost. I didn't know what I believed. I didn't know what my connection was. I didn't know the meaning that I found in my own life. And in the past 5 years of spending so much energy on really cultivating that personal connection, my connection to God, my trust in what is out there, it has deepened my life in a way that is so exponential. And I really want to anchor into that because we're in a period of a few years where there is a lot of change. It isn't something that's always easy, but I wouldn't trade living a spiritual life for anything. I'm so grateful we get to be on this journey together. I'm so grateful for everything that this year brought, and I'm so excited to see what is in store for 2026. Feel free to drop a comment below and let me know some of the things that you learned in 2025. I would love to hear from you guys, and I'm wishing you all a very happy new year and start to 2026. I'll see you next time.